Welcome back to Here with Goldberg. Today I'll be talking about a request I received, and that entails how do I remain happy and stay busy on a regular basis in our present age? It's going to become a pertinent question as we enter these uncharted waters wherein larger swaths of the male population are not ensconced in a Beck and Cole style relationship performing the honey-do list. You might very well attain a wham bam thank you ma'am on Bumble or Hinder, not Hinder. Honey, why you calling me? Well, she isn't calling you. In fact, if you try to broach the prospect of a serious relationship with women nowadays, not saying all, but a considerable number will turn tail and run. My theory with that is that they view what they perceive as a mundane life is worse than death. If they're with a regular schmuck, he works a job, they're living in a small town, they've got either a townhome or maybe a regular family style residence, they have a baby, and basically the highlights are go to the library, maybe go to Starbucks, the grocery store, the park, stop by at their parents' house. It's like, oh, no, 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 no. They want to be out on some private beach in Bali getting taken by Chad or Tyrone, as opposed to he's spooning her and with a hand over the mouth because the infant is sleeping. So many simply do not want to cash in. As such, men are going to be in this situation. Nonetheless, you come across this rhetoric such as, if I don't have a woman, there's no point. I should drop out of society. And I will confess, I maintain a tremendous reserve of contempt for this line of thinking. To begin, I'm not certain that it comes from a position of deep introspection, like this is what the person expressing it necessarily has concluded they want or need. You have to recall the Gen X and Boomer bald cells in the manosphere some years back, they were still shaking their fingers at women. Oh, you better stop sleeping around. No one's going to marry you when you hit the wall. And women are looking at this and going, who do you think you are? You're in no position to make demands. It's the equivalent of Haiti trying to threaten the United States. Good luck. Because they're well aware there's always another dude who will line up to bed them. There's always a guy who will pay their bills, a guy who will marry them, get down on one knee, even if they have kids. So all this, we're not going to accept you, is pretty meaningless. As such, those Manispherians pivoted towards claiming that if men don't have snuggle box, they're going to all stop contributing to society and just give up. And I am not entirely persuaded by that. I think in a way it's the vengeance fantasy taking hold. At the same time, we shouldn't be too dismissive. I am convinced that there's a lot of men out there who are under-evolved, who would be far better suited living in some Siberian hovel in the 1750s, defecating outside, listening to their conservative wife with her traditional organic shrub squawking in his ear about how the harvest has failed, they're all going to starve to death, and the priest is saying, my son, you have to still tithe to the church. The boyar, the noble, wants his tax contribution. And as much as that might not be a long or interesting life, everything's in order. Even you go to the 1950s, you work your factory job, you come home, your wife's a nervous wreck, you have to do some therapy on her, preferably the emotional therapy, not the physical therapy. Your kids have stuff going on, maybe some DIY projects, and there's not too much you have to be concerned about except potentially a nuclear exchange. As such, these guys, they can't wrangle with the modern economy. They don't know what to do with themselves if they aren't able to come home, give their paycheck to the woman, and she does as she sees fit. She complains about this has to be fixed, go get this, buy me that. I'm not trying to, we sort of have to be almost like a good liberal in the wild. You say cultures are equal. You can't be coming down too hard on these fellows, even if it seems like that's what they want as far as their daily to day basis, the heels on their balls. It's perfectly legitimate, to be clear. But that feathers the question, how do I approach the world? Well, maybe it's just I've always had the ability to make myself laugh, so it's not hard for me to be content. Nonetheless, some years ago I was doing a Monday through Friday type schedule and I didn't like it. In the case that you are working from home, you have a short commute, no big deal. But I was getting up before 3 a.m. every single day, and I wouldn't get back until usually 3:30, 4 o'clock. Then if you want to tack on the gym, you finish with that, you're almost deeply into the evening, and you don't have much time. You got to go back to sleep because you have to get up early. Otherwise, you're going to be a zombie, and you're going to rely too much on caffeine. Then on Fridays, I'd be trying to slapdash do all my errands such that I wouldn't waste the weekend. You had one good day, Saturday, to run game, and then Sunday, you're already with that thought process, I've got to get up early in the morning once I hit the sack. So I didn't particularly appreciate that approach. And eventually, I have a wonky schedule that I adopted, but it works pretty well for me because I'm only laboring typically 4 days a week. I've got like a couple half days off, one most of the days off. And in the instances where, like maybe a month ago, I wasn't doing my side hustle, I had all this time. By that final day, I was like, holy mackerel, I've got to find ways to fill the gaps. Otherwise, I'm just going to be wasting it and trying to use less items to fill a broader space, which I don't appreciate when that occurs. But even the last several weeks when I've worked one half day and then another day at my side hustle, I still managed to have a tremendous amount of time on my hands. And this is kind of interesting. So it was one of the full days off. The night before, I had preloaded several tasks. So I got up, did a few things, and I headed out to the local coffee shop. And someone's going to go, "No, you should be staying at home like a minimalist and having chock full of nuts or Folgers." Yeah, from a minimalist perspective, that makes sense. I have a French press at home. I have an electric water kettle. I could go out and buy a high-end Nespresso. It wouldn't be a huge imposition on me with my lifestyle, but I don't want a higher caffeine intake. And then once you get into those pods with an Nespresso, they're very pricey. By the way, as much as Keurig destroyed the environment, very highly recommended. You can get it on Amazon. I'll put a link. It's a little metal reusable filter, so you can have your own coffee. Maybe if you get the beans, you have a way to grind it up, put it in there, and so it's much fresher, and you're not running hot water through those plastic filters each time, which, by the way, you don't even know when the coffee was packed. It might be months old. So that's something that it's like maybe less than $10. But sure, I don't need to go out to a coffee shop. And this particular one, a basic drink, if you just get a French press coffee, because if you get drip, it's been sitting in the tub all day, it's like almost $5. And they say, "Well, you want like to leave a tip?" So you're pushing $6, which is a very pricey habit. But you go there for other reasons. There's a vibe, there's an aura. I was there the last time and I'm sitting down reading 200 Years Together. There's the Becky who works there, very nice girl, probably 1 in 500,000 personality for a Caucasian chick, in all honesty. And she was telling me about, music, and she has a very wonky fashion sense. She's talking about her church. So we're vibing, and there was this Stacy Light that works there, who happens to be a single mom. But she was trying to sort of orbit the conversation, get a word in edgewise. She heard that I had made a remark about the Becky's hair, and next time I go in there, she's done her hair all straightened, glistening, like she probably put argan oil on it. She looks really nice, but I'm just trying to say it's interesting to see how female psychology functions. Well, it's besides the point. So that's one thing you're doing because it's more fulfilling. And you consider a lot of these so-called minimalists, what are they when they stay at their apartments? They end up cracking open YouTube and watching hours of, oh, the collapsitarian, oh, why men are walking away from women, why we don't need women. They're just getting more confirmation bias because ultimately they're kind of lonely and miserable. So it's not like being a minimalist is this great thing. Now, if you're a minimalist and you actually have stuff that motivates you, that's different. Not very common from what I've seen. Long story short, I left the coffee shop. I went to the gym, went through there, and then I had to go to the mechanic because CV axle was messed up on the car. It was doing a lot of vibrations. He said, "This is my price, but you can look elsewhere." Advance Auto was $90 for the parts, but then I found on Rock Auto with shipping, which is pretty fast, 73. So they put that in, but then there were some lights on the dashboard. Turned out it was the wheel speed sensor. His price was $153 to the part, but I got it for 20 on Rock Auto and he installed it. So all that stuff was done. I got home before 1 p.m. This is, remember, the week when I'm doing my side hustle 2 days. and I had like maybe two remaining things to achieve. So I was talking to the painters because I talked about earlier the habaneros wanted 18 grand. These guys did my neighbor's house, Redneck Boys. They are charging me just over six, and they do a really good job. They fix some of the carpentry, the woodwork where needed. They said it's actually overall in really good shape, and so that's cool. But I was like, I need to add stuff on because I have all this space, and ended up doing some painting of the cabinets in the kitchen. I was listening to this guy. You guys probably never heard of him. He sounds like Elon Musk, but without a stutter, a thinking ape. So, I don't usually subscribe to channels. I'll just save videos and then it'll be months. And I'm like, yeah, I should actually check that out. Now I have an opportunity. So I did that, did edits. And even though, like I said, in theory, you're too compressed with work, but I was able to have extra time and I got more stuff done. And like I said, when I go to work, it's not like I can't multitask there, so I don't dread it like some people might do. As far as other areas where I've been looking to invest time, and I wanted to present it as a general question because I saw a guy selling a Monte Carlo SS supercharged, not high miles, pretty decent rate. I've always liked the look of those cars. It was a few years ago on Marketplace, this dude was trying to sell an LS, but he was claiming it was an SS. And I just politely inquired because you can see a difference on the instrument panel as far as how much the speedometer goes to. And he started rage building and blocked me. So you have to be careful because an LS is not an SS. But if anyone has experience with early to mid 2000s Monte Carlos, this wouldn't be a daily driver, it'd be more of a fun car. If you say, are they good? Are they worthwhile? Might be nice to have something to take out on the track. Again, maybe in this economy, it's not a good time, but it's never a good time to really reward yourself. That's what I've found. So, of course, travel is a factor. I don't look at it like some, oh yeah, lifestyle BS. In fact, I'm not big into taking a myriad of pictures when I go, but 2023 visited three countries, and then I also went to a major American city and then toured the state around it, which was phenomenal. America is a lot of fun. People say they don't have money. Do a road trip. There's so much you can experience just relatively on a local basis. And there's no excuse not to. You have to have, obviously, cultivate certain interests, but sometimes the act of traveling will do so. In 2024, did one state, like four major cities, did another state, which was really cool. I have to talk about that at some time. Went overseas. I was going to do another vacation, but inclement weather got in the way. But I'm about to revisit the same spot in a couple of weeks here. As far as international for 2025, I had talked about Turkey before, but they've started locking up CHP party members. And being a Care Bear, if we go to war with Iran, I probably don't want to be in that area. The Kurds might start up something. The Turkish government, I don't want to have any, ruffled feathers. But talking with a friend of mine about potentially going to Japan, and clearly with Japan, I want to experience it before it gets forcibly enriched, which they're already in the process. See a lot of the stuff like the Yakasuni Shrine. Once more, I'm not into, I want to take a bunch of pictures everywhere. I just want to see it, maybe experience the bullet train, that kind of stuff. Now, once more, I'll ask, does anyone have recent voyages there as far, is it a geomaxing location? Because we always hear about it, the women are feminists, they don't care. Is it a place where you could get on an app, JBW way to have like a good time, or is it you have to go to a specific establishment, P for P? I don't know about that. Another option would be Buenos Aires. And our friend Bitcoin Meister, he was saying you can take a bus, I think, from Buenos Aires to Montevideo. Yeah, alternatively, you try to fly to Montevideo. It's more complicated and probably a little bit steeper in terms of the price. So, travel isn't everything, but it does help because it kind of paces the year. Now, the one tricky part is that you almost have to be planning them back to back, I've found, because if you're the type that you really want to get it right with your itinerary, not just wander around, it's easy to, the weeks go by. If you're not really dead set, okay, I'm just going to book everything, and then you have to see if you're going to get the time off. So it's a trade-off. But I strongly recommend traveling, not just if you want to geomax, but also to see history, to interact with different people. People that will come in the comments and say it's a waste of time, the world there's no points. Pick up a Mark Kurlansky book and tell me the world is boring and the only thing that matters is being married. I can't take it seriously. And there's nothing wrong with being married. I'm not even against it entirely wholesale myself. But there's great stuff to experience on our planet. I think we're actually very lucky to live in this age where we have the ability to do stuff that was not there even 100 years ago for most people. On a less extravagant basis, and I've talked about this before, Marx was getting at something with alienation from your work, the importance of seeing the product of your own labor, having time to pursue it. Sometimes, if your job is really demanding, you have no flexibility, it can just wear you out and you just want to be a vegetable on the couch playing video games or watching Netflix. I don't have anything against that. I have found as I age that video games just seem like a waste of time to me. I can enjoy them, but I also feel after the fact like I've just lost a ton of time for no point. With that being said, something that motivates you, like I talked about people wanting to be minimalist, which is cool, but as a minimalist, you should still redirect resources towards areas that you like, you enjoy. So if you're composing music or you're doing some kind of woodworking, leatherworking, if you like the outdoors, rock climbing, hiking, cycling, whatever it might be, MMA, for me, a big thing besides the gym is research and writing. That gives me something that I can pace myself, not just day to day, but a month to month, year to year. You see the outcome of what you've produced and how it can impact other people. That's really worthwhile. Now, if you're in a state where you're only consuming, I can get how it would become more depressing because you don't feel like you're amounting to anything, especially if you don't, you at least you could say if you had kids or whatnot. So that's how I do it. It's always important, I reiterate, being able to make yourself laugh. To an extent, if you have moments where you're not around other people, that's fine. I can do with both. But I find having specific objectives and seeing them through, as generic as that might sound, it's always worked for me. As much as it can be easy to fall back on there's no point, why not just give up? I've never seen much purpose in doing so. Even economically speaking, yeah, your money's being inflated. Yeah, your purchasing power is diminished, but you can still build up resources. You can still see your assets grow, and you can use that towards giving yourself a better quality of life. Once more sounds generic, but you think of this like when I was a kid, not saying we lived, hand to mouth poverty, but there's a lot of things I've been able to improve for myself that I didn't experience when I was a kid. And I think that's good. Even some of the smaller victories in life are quite worthwhile. That's why I try to put a limitation. When the people they squawk too much about resignation, I don't see the purpose. Maybe I'll get to a point where I'm manic depressive. I've never really experienced serious depression, except for maybe like a couple months when I was a teenager. And that was more of the growing up type dynamic. But yeah, life is good. The world is very interesting. Hopefully, the powers that be won't destroy it and we can live better. But that one is still up for debate.